Is WoW still actually fun to play? Is the magic gone? I don't know if you guys are having fun playing WoW. I've enjoyed the War Within. I think it's been a good time. Do I still get the same highs from WoW that I used to back in the day? No, but I mean, that kind of applies to everything in life, right? I'm older now. I'm balding, so that makes me sad. There's just more going on and less things that you find that high level of joy in. I still get excited for a new expansion and everything else, but I wouldn't say the magic is gone. I would just say I'm a bit older, and things don't excite me the way they used to. But WoW needs to survive. WoW needs to continue to excite its player base here, and in the coming expansions of the rest of the World Soul Saga, can they continue to do that? Let's see what Marcellian has to say about the magic in World of Warcraft.
Hey, welcome back. We have a brand new episode of The Community Talks and leaves comments. So, we're gonna check us how this works is you leave a comment on this topic or whatever topic you want, and whichever comment of yours gets the most upvotes, or we see it like repeating itself from different people, or we just find it interesting, is going to be featured in the next video, and that will be the topic. So for this one, we have it from Coldarek9676, and he said, I kind of disagree on this take. If I want replayability in WoW, I want it to be because whatever game mode I'm playing is fun, be it M+ or PvP or raiding. Design the game to be fun rather than introducing arbitrary carrots on sticks that feel like obligation. So the question is for today, is WoW still fun?
So that guy, I guess he feels obligated to do things like raid and Mythic Plus, but the truth is, the way WoW is played today, if you want the best gear, there's always been an obligation in MMO to do certain pieces of content, right? You want good gear, you got to go raid. You got to go do high-end Mythic Plus. Like, that makes sense. I don't think anybody's obligated to do anything in this game anymore. Because there are so many different levels of content, even if you want to experience the story just from raid alone, you don't even have to be geared enough to do that. You could just go do story mode version of raid. You can do, for dungeons, you want to go experience those, you can go do the, what are they called? The AI version of those, right? Where you just get 4 other pieces of AI to run in through the dungeon with you with that. So I don't think anything is required in this game anymore. I feel like some people bitch sometimes about a requirement to do things to get gear, but I mean, how else are they supposed to give you gear? What, that should just show up in your mailbox? I don't really know. Sam is an advanced AI. That's true. Yeah, I am an AI, and I am an AI, and everybody in chat is bots. So this whole stream is fake. But I don't know how else they're going to give gear out, honestly. So I don't feel like anything's required. I just hate time gating. That's the one thing that I've been griping on lately with the game.
11.1.5 in the current retail WoW. Well, it's a complex question because all I can think about is like how formulaic WoW has become and what avenue are you most interested in and how fun that avenue is. Be that raiding, Mythic Plus, PvP, delves, pet battles, transmog collection, mount collection. There's so many avenues. Yeah. And I feel that there's something missing.
It's definitely formulaic. And first, to address the question that was in contrast to us saying that WoW needs bar power back because we needed something back, something that kept us logging in again and again. And I think, if anything, the Turbo Boost event kind of did that. It gave people a reason to log back in by increasing the item level, by giving uncapped crest farms, which it's not borrowed power, but it's a farm that you can constantly do until the end of time, since
until you get your best
until you're kind of maxed.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is probably one of the best seasons that we've had in WoW in terms of endgame content and replayability because of how they addressed Mythic Plus, because of how they address raids, and then you have delves as well for casual people. So it is.
Look, Mythic Plus is in a good spot. I would say it's in the best spot it's been since season 3 of Dragonflight. Those were really good times for Mythic Plus. So is this right now. Overall, the raid, I think, is pretty fun. I think one issue that people are having lately with the game is how strong the seasonality has become. Right? From like season to season, because of catch-up mechanics and everything else, like Blizzard trying to cater to the fact that people need catch-up mechanics to kind of stay within the game, stay within the War Within, it makes things feel hyper-seasonal. Whereas before, like, yes, a new expansion lost, all your gear becomes obsolete. Launches, all your gear becomes obsolete, so then you kind of start over. Now it feels like you're basically getting a new expansion reset every single season. Because everyone plays the catch-up game at the very end, and everyone gets to that high cap item level, and then Blizzard has to reset it so hard that it feels like almost like your all your gear is completely useless every single season. You could miss an entire season in WoW now and jump back in with catch up mechanics and be right back where the guy who's been playing the entire season is currently sitting. So Samiccus is obsolete, maybe. Maybe. I don't know how Blizzard fixes the seasonality of the game. Honestly, it's kind of it's just become how gaming works lately. So they'll continue to do it. I don't see that changing anytime soon. But it does make the seasons feel a little bit less meaningless, I guess.
In the sense, one of the most
A
fun
little bit
ones,
more
but is it
meaningless.
enough to keep people on? Because we see these new events being added, and they're not really.
They feel half big. They feel.
Yeah.
I kind of miss. So I get the point of Koldarik's comment. I kind of miss that feeling of excitement when you play something that feels fresh in World of Warcraft. And we had this with the artifact weapons in Legion, and with the new Mythic Plus system introduced, that was pretty huge. Even the fact that they reworked the specs, you were curious and you find it fun to like discover the new abilities, all of the new mechanics. This also happened like sort of.
Yeah, and like going towards the seasonality of what I was kind of talking about, one thing that Legion Legendaries did was they did make you feel like there was never a real reset. The entire expansion, you just always felt like you were getting stronger. Even at the end, when the entirety of your weapon tree was filled out, this was an infinite grind that just continued to build and build. Every time you just kept building up that IP and pumping it into your weapon. Blizzard themselves admitted that Legion Legendaries, not Legion Legendaries, I should say, what were they called? Your artifact weapons. They went to a place that they weren't even expecting people to go. Basically, the degeneracy of the players pushed the weapons so high that the numbers got to a level that Blizzard themselves didn't even think they would get to by the end of the expansion. So yes, we totally reached God mode by the end of that expansion, and it was because of those weapons and the ability to build up power the entire expansion, never resetting, never feeling like it was ever obsolete. It just kept going. And that's why some people now are calling for something like that to come back.
In Mist of Pandaria, when they switched around the talent trees and everything was like, oh my god, this is so compressed, and it was fun kind of like tweaking with that. I think the best moment of like pure fun for me, at least, and I can see this in the whole community, was still during Legion, during we have to call it out, the Mage Tower.
Okay.
That was challenging. I remember people being like super mad when that first was introduced because it was very hard. But once they gave a lot more power and catch up and everything, it became a fun little game mode.
True.
That on top of everything that Legion introduced, as I said, Mythic Plus and all of that. So, okay, maybe not borrowed power, but where do we put the stamp of fun on WoW? Because it's still a fun game, but it has so many bumps on the road that like it's like a slow death. Like if you continue play and let's say like you want to push rating in Mythic Plus, for example, or you want to get cutting edge or something.
Yeah.
You continuously play and play and play, and at some point it becomes some sort of a muscle memory. Then everything becomes so formulaic in your head as well that it slowly kills the fun element, and you just like wind up thinking,
feeling like it's a chore
to play a new spec.
That's
maybe I should try to do something
That's
else.
exactly it. And what I was gonna say is that the fun right now seems to be condensed in, because it's an interesting roller coaster. So right now, I think what's fun about the game is actually playing the classes and playing the specs.
Specs were always kind of fun. I mean,
not really, because if you remember, there was a time when we criticized Blizzard a lot about how they are designing classes and specs, because that has to be the first thing.
That was because the borrowed power thing.
Yeah, and funny how that
I'll just say this real quick. As much as I just propped up, artifact weapons and how great those were, they made respecking or playing an alt basically impossible, because you were starting back at zero. Every time, if you respect and you were using a new artifact weapon, or even worse, if you just went to a completely different alt, you were starting like from the ground. And everybody else was where they were, so you played a long freaking catch-up game. And there were catch-up mechanics, but they weren't enough to really get you caught up that quickly until the very end of the expansion. So that is the one thing about borrowed power and where it sits in an expansion, is that it does create a more difficult game when it comes to playing alts or changing specs.
that works. And now we're actually having really good specs in class design. You can, of course, there's your spec that somehow just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But you have to admit that as opposed to like the past expansions, specs and classes are really fun right now to engage with, whether you play dungeons, raids, delves, open world content, or farm, whatever the problem with WoW's current content is, and why our brain went to bar power, is that the outside of your character type content is kind of boring. Either it's formulaic and still, like you said, or we don't have the Legion type stuff that it felt like they were thinking outside of the box. We had the Withered Army training, we had the Suramar, we had the artifact appearance farming that was like a different kind of transmog that you had to do all kinds of this. And whether you would like it or not, at the time, world quests were kind of new. Invasions were kind of new. They became boring, sure, but they were like... They were like a delve type content, but there was like 3 or 4 of them instead of just one thing, right? That was essentially new. So
Legion really was a groundbreaking expansion. They brought those Legion invasions for pre-patch. That was something kind of new. They've tried to replicate that ever since, and they really haven't been able to. I forgot about the Mythic Plus as well. Like, Mythic Plus was literally introduced during Legion. We got so many new game modes, so many different ways to play the game in Legion that have become evergreen, like become part of every expansion ever since. That was a bomb expansion, man. That was a good one.
Would get bored, of course, as you can get bored with everything, but a little bit slower than usual, and
World
you had
quests,
way more
like he's
balls
talking
to
about.
juggle on top of the borrowed power.
Balls to juggle.
Exactly. So what I think is, for the last couple of expansions, ever since Dragonflight onwards, they focused a lot on internal systems being good.
Which is good.
Mythic Plus is good right now. The mechanics are fun. The visuals are good.
You say Mythic Plus is good right now. I still feel there's a lot more steps to take to make it actually good and engaging. There's still a lot of problems in Mythic Plus, and
for sure.
speaking for all my healers out there,
I would, yeah. I think he's going to say exactly what I'm going to say. I don't think the problem with Mythic Plus right now is the dungeons, the designs, the bosses, anything about Mythic Plus. I think the affixes, I think that those things are all pretty good right now. The major problem with Mythic Plus right now is tanking and healing. Tanks are so damn squishy, it's stupid. I don't know why Blizzard decided to go in this direction. Okay, they didn't want tanks feeling immortal, but the truth is, a tank could never really do the content on their own. Yes, you could have that heroic moment where you take down the last 3% or 5% of the boss because you're just surviving on your own, your own valor, having that epic heroic moment. But at the end of the day, you needed a party to really do anything significant. So they wanted to make tanks more squishy. They've done that. And then they made everything harder on healers. So now healers got to worry about the tank so much more. It's made healing a lot harder in the game.
Another death
Mini coming in with a sub 42
Rattle
months.
coffee.
My God, what a champion of our Scourge. Thank you so much, Mini, for that sub. Here's the thing. Tanks need to be fixed. If you fix tanks, you'll fix healing a bit. It will become less difficult. And what all these issues have caused really is there's so much toxicity around tanking and healing that you have less of them in the game now. So less of them in the game means longer queues, groups dropping and falling apart more easily. It's just created this whole issue that didn't need to exist. I don't know why Blizzard made these changes with tanks. It was no one asked for it, and they did it anyways.
this is like the worst season to be a healer because they didn't really tone down one-shots. They didn't really tone down mechanics. It's interesting. They toned down mechanics and casts, but they kind of maybe unintentionally promoted big pulls, which do imply a lot more mobs, which do imply a lot more stops, a lot more interrupts, and so forth.
Counterintuitive to what they were trying to achieve.
Exactly. And it's fun up until one point. Then it becomes kind of stressful, and you don't really want to go there anymore just because you feel like something can always just slip out of your hands. This is purely from a healer perspective. We also cover tanks with the threat issues and all of that.
Oh yeah, that too, the threat
It's
issues.
not necessarily regarding Mythic Plus, but you do feel these problems in Mythic Plus the most.
I guess
it's not the only game mode.
Yeah,
but
I think, well, obviously it's the most played game mode, at least that we have data on, and it's played way more than past seasons that we've had in a very long time. That's where, I would assume it's fun. Maybe people just play it out of habit. Maybe people play it out of routine, or that they don't really have anything better to do, and they might want something better, and that's perfectly fine. What I meant to say is that they focused on perfecting the system with better visuals, better crest rewards and
a lot
gear.
of good stuff.
It's never going to be perfect, right? And even raids, because we take a look at like 2 expansions back in Shadowlands. Now we have a lot more paths and skips that we kind of asked for. We have tier sets performance with Catalyst, so you can reliably get your tier set and not like having to
Yeah,
stress
that's
too
good.
much about it. Like bosses have multiple loot types where you can get a trinket, but also a tier piece, so it's not super restrictive anymore. And the dinar system obviously is a good change. The vault also kind of, you know, encompassing more aspects of PvE and having PvP broken apart so that if you don't play PvP, you can do world quests. So they've worked on that as well. But I think where they're missing the mark very heavily when it comes to fun is the flavor of the game that we've criticized as well in Dragonflight, where because obviously we're doing some work on some videos that you might already see or might see in the future, but there's that epic moment that you know kind of got you into the game before, like whether or not it was fun. When you log into Legion, you know you're going to be fighting the Burning Legion. You know you're
the
getting
context and the vibe is always there. Plus the
He's right. I mean, there was the epic like Varian dying at the beginning of Legion. That whole moment was a very epic moment in that it created like this, I don't know, this, especially somebody like me who liked Varian a lot, created this like drive, like this heightened sense of, okay, this is a dangerous expansion, everything's on the line, and there's some big bads that I really want to kill. I wanted to fucking execute Gul'dan. I did. I hated him. At that point, I wanted to gear out as hard as I could, not just for the sake of, oh, I got a big IO. You know, it's not that. It was at that point that I wanted to prepare for Suramar, to do the raid, to go into Nighthold, and to kill Gul'dan. Like, I was very motivated lore-wise to do that. Is that motivation currently there right now with the way the lore is right now? I don't know. The Titans are bad guys. The Void is bad. Azeroth, we don't really know what she's like whispering, you know, blowing in our ear a little bit, tickling our taints. We don't know what's really going on. We just kind of know that everything is reaching a crescendo. Where it's going, what Iridicron's doing, it's all kind of still mysterious. So we're sitting there, you know, excited about the World Soul Saga, and I'm sure we're going to get more of it going forward. Xalatat's a good villain, but in the Midnight might be like a better flesh out of all this stuff. But as of right now, yeah, we don't have that like Legion, Varian just died moment yet. We'll see.
Story. I know a lot of people are not interested in the story, but even for people who are not that interested in the story, the fact that you have this vibe all around, this atmosphere, contributes to the fun element. Right now, it was very cool at the beginning of War Within. We made a lot of videos praising like the War Within. It started off great,
but missing sauce.
That meat on the bone is not there.
It's kind of like that super cool baked bread that looks so crispy, but
which
the inside,
is fun.
But the inside is like kind of hollow, right? So you need a little bit more juice. You need a proper story, proper characters that all shape around your characters and all of these systems. And of course, the formulaic problem is something that is very hard to say that we've always had this problem, and it's very hard to discuss because it's something that kind of cropped up a little bit recently because it's a natural problem to occur with a game that's going on for such a long time.
Let me ask you something. Did you feel you had more fun in BFA than right now in War Within? Honest question.
A little bit, yeah.
Me too. Why is that? Because I remember us talking shit all the time about the fact that we had to grind.
Okay, but I'll be honest. I was not a major shit talker of BFA. I saw the glory of BFA when a lot of people weren't necessarily seeing it, because BFA's major issue was it stumbled so fucking hard out of the gate. It was unbelievable. Azerite armor was absolutely fucking wrecked. It was so stupid. Blizzard took no freaking feedback on that thing, and it launched and was a complete dud. We had the war mode or war, whatever the fuck that war thing was. That was complete shit because it was like this NPC repeatable garbage that really didn't do anything for you. And then you had the island expeditions, which also were kind of janked up and broken. Like the Battle for Azeroth was a battle for launch. That's what it was. Like, if you could get through the launch of Battle for Azeroth, you actually enjoyed the expansion a lot. It had really good raids. Battle for Dazar'alor is still one of my favorites. The story was pretty darn good. I enjoyed the story in Battle for Azeroth. The cities were cool. I thought the Kultirans and the Zandalari were really good additions to the game. I enjoyed BFA after the launch. So if you survived that, you got through it. The War Within just feels kind of slow. It's not as exciting as BFA. It's like I said, and we already have this confirmed. The entirety of the World Soul Saga, the story that we're getting, was really supposed to be one expansion. It was supposed to be the War Within. And then Chris Metzen came back, and he was like, no, we got to go more in depth with this. We got to spread this out. We're going 3 expansions deep with this thing. And so I feel like because of that, The War Within just feels a bit softer. Like it does feel like an intro movie, an unfinished, piece of the saga. And you're right. I think somebody said earlier, "Oh, if this wasn't part fibbing." He said, "Could you imagine knowing that this was not a 3 expansion arc? People would be bashing the hell out of the story right now that we are current. That even now, you're right. You're right. The one thing really saving the War Within and the story that we're getting is that we know that this is an unfinished story. So we'll see when it's finished. We look back on it. Was it good?
But we still played the hell out of it.
So it broke a couple of barriers. First of all, it broke the faction concept that we've had up until then. It didn't, deliver until the end. And whether you like to admit it or not, Azra was like a different thing you engage with. Your brain kind of wants different things. It was a little bit boring in the theme part of it because we didn't have our tier sets. We didn't have as much individuality.
What was fun about BFA? Because even though we had a ton of restrictions, we kept on playing and playing and playing and playing.
Also, corruption gear at the end and everything was insane. I mean, it was so broken that it was fun. It really was. It was a good time at the end of the expansion.
And we played the raids. We played arenas a lot. We played Mythic Plus a lot. We kind of engaged with all of the content. Why was that better, at least in terms of like looking back, and it's more of like Fieldcrafty. Why was that better then than what we have now? Was it the story? Was it the actual content? Was it easier to gauge into that content? Was it like, was your PC running much better during all of that
it's
content?
a lot. It's very small things. It also felt, to me at least, felt more Warcrafty. We had trolls and humans.
True.
Kultirans and Zandalari.
The context plays a big role.
Yeah, the context and the zones coming. What do we have before we had Legion? It was like a whole new world.
I got tired of that. I got tired of that. Like the whole green all around.
Yeah,
that
it was getting oppressive. So
criticized.
going into Stormsong Valley, seeing that openness, it was really cool.
Was
and
fresh.
Mythic Plus was
Stormsong Valley
finally
was
getting to be polished a little bit because in Legion was a little bit, first draft type thing. So you were getting like actual proper rotated affixes. We were getting like Nagas and all god themes. So even if the story with Sylvanas was kind of like and it ended up being shit, everything around it, it was kind of good. Like seeing Jaina being a much more impactful character was cool because
speculating that Jaina might be a Dreadlord. Remember that?
Yeah. So it felt more Warcrafty overall. It felt like the flavor was more there than it is now.
But I'm curious, like, do you guys who played in BFA?
I will say too, in BFA we had a lot of the main characters at the forefront, right? Like you just said, Jaina was playing a big role in it. Sylvanas, she was doing her thing. We saw a lot of big time characters doing big time things. Right now in the War Within, it does feel like all the big time characters are like just sitting around in Dornegal. Doing what? I have no idea. Maybe they're exploring what it's like to be with an earthen, to sleep with an earthen, to, poo-poo with an earthen. I don't know, finger pop with an earthen. It just feels like there's a lot of characters right now that are just absent. Magni did his thing in the beginning of the expansion. He's kind of fallen off too, right? He got his fleshy cock back. Now he's just sitting around doing nothing. So what's going on? We have really no storylines from main characters. They're trying to really push Farron Lothar, right? They're trying to push her. And she's an all right character. But like Anduin's taking a back seat to her. It's just, like I said, the main characters aren't doing main character things right now. So that's why I feel like the story just kind of feels like it's like floundering.
You guys have the same feeling that it was a little bit more fun than it is right now? I don't know. Maybe we're just too much nostalgic or something. I can definitely tell you that in Shadowlands, at least from Korthia moving forward, I didn't feel the same fun element to it, but I did feel a lot more fun at the beginning. Shadowlands Season 1 was
I think for Mythic Plus and the raid was really good.
Castle Natria was great, like the dungeons
Castle
were
Natria
great.
was good.
We still didn't get the full grasp on what we were expecting in terms of like getting our characters to the potential power, so that borrow power was shit. But again, that first season of Shadowlands was really, really banger. Arenas too. And we have to like we're going in circles. Like if WoW is fun today, it is in some parts, but it's definitely not in others. And I think one of the biggest reasons is the context, the atmosphere, the vibe. We're lacking that. We feel like it's like a stale hamster wheel we're doing.
To play off on what you said, it kind of was what built Shadowlands to be so hated as well with Korthia as well. going into Shadowlands, sure, this was kind of like new concepts and we're kind of exploring it, but once it started to set in, you realized, okay, this doesn't really look like WoW anymore, which was what Portheus and what Zeroth Mortis was in the end. As much as Zeroth Mortis improved gameplay-wise, it was
very alien.
what
Xerath Mortis looks like something out of Final Fantasy or something. I don't know what it 100% did not feel like WoW. All the I get it, they tried to do something different. All the geometric shapes, these really like whited out color palettes and stuff. Something about it just felt weird. It really did.
geometry class, circles and triangles all over the place.
It was very alien,
Like
indeed.
a Destiny, like
I
maybe.
cannot shake off the fact that, okay, they focused a lot in Dragonflight on making sure like the hood, the engine works properly, like with the new talents and everything. So and they excluded the power stuff, and that was great. We always praised them for that. Dragonflight in terms of like story and atmosphere was really stale, but I was expecting a lot more for the War Within. Maybe 11.2 will bring this and will start kicking in gear. I think like medicine will play a role in this as well.
Oh,
but,
interested, yeah.
Just getting past a little bit the whole context and vibe, I surely believe that the gameplay currently needs a lot more
content
improvement and upgrading. You said like most classes are fun. I agree, most classes are fun today. On the other hand, there's also the truth that a lot of these classes and specs feel very outdated, even as fun as they are.
Yeah, some of them.
They need upgrading a lot in many departments. I was looking specifically on rogues on Reddit and seeing what people are talking about rogues. Like, rogues are so over-designed in so many avenues. And
I
it's
wouldn't
true.
know anything about rogues.
I don't know why, and I don't know how the team works out all of these things. But indeed, when you play a spec that's near and dear to your heart, that spec needs to feel good. It needs to perform good. It needs to deliver on the fantasy. And sure enough, we have to praise them. They did that in a lot of cases.
I feel like my class is delivering on the fantasy. I feel like hero talents have added a lot to a lot of classes. I'm not sure if they were necessary, but I do feel like they've added a decent amount to make the class fantasy feel more high fantasy. It does feel good to play Blood DK, besides the fact that tanking feels shitty as hell. I think, like, yes, Blood DK is a tanking spec, but tanking overall has its own issues. But I would say at its core, Blood DK is playing pretty well for me. And I feel like most people are pretty happy with their classes right now. Class balance feels pretty good. Dungeon balance feels pretty good. So does Raid. Just overall, unless you're playing Augmentation Evoker, I think this expansion has been decent for most classes.
But there is the truth that most of them are kind of in the past.
It's a weird situation when we have with classes, because if we're talking about mages and windwalkers and mistweavers, because I wanted to say monks, but I cannot really touch brewmasters. Maybe that's a good example to the point that I'm going to be making. They play way better. Like the specs that have been properly reworked, they are the most fun versions of them in terms of gameplay wise, in terms of like how fun it is to do your rotation, to pop your cooldowns, to sync all of your little things. While other specs, when they forget them, it actually shows how much WoW has evolved.
Yep, that's when you see the difference.
When you look at, you've played Frost DK, and Frost DK right now is probably, since Legion here, the most complex it has ever been, and it still feels very outdated. You've built a very insignificant resource.
Unholy is also very... Unholy plays the same for like the longest time.
Yeah, it has like an abomination now instead of like a million little ghouls, but like functionally it's the same, yeah.
So what I propose is... But this is another topic for a video. We're gonna like close it off after I propose it. We need some sort of like Legion revamp for all the specs. It's ambitious, I know, but something needs to happen because you said it. You've seen the reworks.
Legion was pretty big, and whenever
I don't think we'll see. I think hero talents were supposed to be that redo of all the specs. I can't imagine them redoing them again.
We're in Legion. My personal opinion about it is, and you can let us know if it was similar, is that they raised the bar so high. There is the bar with class design. They raised the bar with order halls, class campaigns. Artifact weapons is kind of like the bar power of Legion, whether you like to admit it or not, but that's fine. But it was flavorful. It was Warcrafty. It added Mythic Plus as a whole. And it's not like it's a new content. That was just a new content. But Mythic Plus just turned the tables of what dungeons meant. Dungeons were supposed to be a source of like little tiny gear to get you into raid. But now dungeons were the end game, were the raid of Legion, if you want to call it that way. Not to mention that the story was very relatable, something that was built across the time. But that bar being raised so high made you think like, bro, can they keep this up? Because either we're gonna have the best years of WoW ahead of us, or it's gonna tank. I mean,
we lived it. We know.
yeah.
We know. But hey, let us know in the comments what you think. Is it fun still today, and why is it fun for you, or why is it not fun for you? Again, the comment that gets the most upvotes, or the comment that seems to repeat itself all over the
Forward to
comment
Legion
section,
Remix.
or maybe just one that
Yeah,
we
should be
find
fun.
giga interesting, will be the next topic for the video that will be posted next week.
Yep.
So let us know in the comments all of that, and click on this video to check.
The 10 most anticipated things that Midnight needs to have to be a banger, because we've just talked about what WoW is lacking.
Yeah, that was a good one. Good video overall. Can you recreate Legion? Probably not. Look, Legion was a good expansion, good story, good mechanics, good things added to the game. Overall, I talked about it a little bit, the seasonality of the game and everything, and what it's kind of done to WoW lately. War Within is a good expansion. Look, I'm not saying it's a bad expansion at all. I do think it's a good expansion. It's been fun for what it is, and I think Blizzard's trying to make the game, put the game in a good spot. We'll see as they go forward and we look back after Midnight, after the Last Titan. We look back on the World Soul Saga. I think we'll be able to take it all in as a whole and decide whether or not WoW was in a good spot. And then where it goes from there, that's going to matter. We'll see. Nice video from Marcellian, though.